Now, I know that it's going to be a big thing that Turbo missed the first 4 games of the season. I understand that. And I'm not trying to make an argument. I know I'm arguing for Hayne here, but I'm not trying to make an argument that he was less disadvantaged as Hayne, because he was more disadvantaged by missing the first 4 games. But Jared Hayne did play first 8 games in 2009 at centre and 5'8". He was mixing between the two. So he's not really allowed to get in the groove there. He's just getting thrown wherever. I think it was round 9 where he got put at fullback, and that's where he kind of stayed. So his stats would have... I know he's still getting stats for those games because he's still playing, unlike Turbo for the first 4 games. But they're going to be affected because he wasn't really in his set position. He was just kind of doing whatever. So round 9's where he kind of... I think it was round 9. I know he definitely missed the first 8... or didn't miss the first 8 games, but was playing in different positions the first 8 games. So he wasn't really allowed to get in the group. So that's one thing. I know, because I said to you that he had a pretty trash team around him, and you said it wasn't that trash. I went and looked at the team. In my opinion, it was pretty trash. I mean, he only had one rep player playing along his side, Nathan Hindmarsh. But look, with all due respect, they're better players than I'll ever be. But your halves are Daniel Mortimer and Jeff Robson. Like, that's not the most outstanding halves combo. If you ask
They're not
me,
bad. Especially
Jeff
back
Robson.
then, Mortimer was on the rise. Jeff Robson's never been a bad half.
Yeah, well, those were their first years at the club too, if I'm correct. So everything was new for Parramatta that season. Their pretty much whole spine was different. And you can make an argument that if there was a World Cup this year, there was a 4 Nations in 2009, and yeah, the only other Eels rep player, and that was Hindmarsh for Australia. You can make an argument for Josh Schuster, Kieran Foran, both New Zealand, or Josh Schuster could be Samoa. Morgan Harper's New Zealand, he would have made it. DCE would have been in the Australian side. Josh Alloway, New Zealand. Jake Turbo, Australia. Martin Spade, New Zealand. So there can't be an argument on who had the better team, because I think it's just so clearly Turbo. But that's obviously not what we're arguing. But I think having a better team does help. This is a big one. Turbo was playing with a faster game. Now, I know that, again, he can't help that he's been put in a faster game. That's just how time's gone. But Hainsey did it in a much more defensive kind of era of rugby league, which I think makes it harder to just score tries, break tackles, and all that. The comp Turbo played in this year. Now, like the teams that were good were really good, but I think other than that, the comp wasn't that strong. Like, it was one of the weaker comps we've had. So yeah, like, the teams just weren't very good this year, if I'm just putting it straight. I know that's kind of a terrible way to argue the fact, but teams weren't too good. And the teams that were good, he didn't beat once. I know Parramatta, you could say, yeah, and he did carve us up, but Parramatta kind of fell off by the end there. But yeah, teams weren't very good. The later difference, I kind of had it here. The difference between first and eighth in 2009 was 38 to 29. So that's 9 points. No. How have I got all of my math wrong?
Wait a minute. No, it's 9. It's 9. 38 to 29 is 9.
9. For some reason, that fucking tripped me out. And then in 2021, it was 44-22 with the Titans making the 8 with a losing record. And this is the big one. And I know you knew it was coming, but it's as simple as Tom Trbojevic didn't make the grand final and Jared Hayne did. Now, it depends what you value in people's seasons, but I think team success needs to come into it. And I know it's literally just one game extra. But if we're looking for another reason, Turbo, again, didn't really do it in the finals. Now, I know that one game against the Roosters, he definitely did. But Jared Hayne in 2009 came up against the first place Dragons, which he played a massive part in winning. He literally set up pretty much every try, set up the first try with a bomb, made a break, pretty much went 60 metres. They scored a play after that, then scored one of the best individual tries we've ever seen to ice the game off. So that was the first place Dragons that he knocked off. And then they came up against the third place Titans, who only missed them, or who were 2 points off tying for the minor premiership that year. He breezed past them 27-2, again played a massive part in that game. And then played the Bulldogs, who were second place, who were pretty much just as dominant as the Dragons that year. and again played a massive part in that, or not a massive part, not as big of a part, but still did a lot in that game. So, and then I think when you compare that to Turbo's final series, where week one against the Storm, I'm not going to act like he played bad. He still did his thing, but it was definitely a below.
I think that as someone who is debating for Tom Trbojevic, I think he had a bad game.
Yeah, I don't know. He still had decent stats. I still think he played okay, but like compared to what he was doing in the regular season, to play like that in the finals is a bit disappointing. We all know what he did against the Roosters, but they're a fairly depleted side. I think they were kind of waiting to get smacked. And then the most important game of his career in the prelim, he ran for less than 100 meters. I think it was 96 or 97 and had 4 errors. So I think when you're comparing that, finals has to come into it because like it's the most. There's no point of having a good season if in the finals you're not going to do anything. The finals is when it matters. Jared Hayne came against the top 3 teams, performed, did his job, got his team to the grand final. To only lose to 7 against a way over the cap Storm side that he really should have beaten. And then Turbo kind of can't make it past South Sydney that didn't have one of their better players and really did get smacked and just didn't really show up at all. And that's with all due respect. I do like Turbo a lot as a player. So, yeah, that's a big thing. There's a couple more points here. I'll stop talking in a second. Jared Hayne did this in a really strong era too. You had the likes of Thurston, Lockyer, Smith-Jia, Cronk. I know they're all kind of in the same team there for a little while. Not Thurston and Lockyer, but he did it in an era where a few of those players, maybe like all of those players that I just mentioned, will probably end up being immortals at some point. And I kind of mentioned it earlier, and this will be my last point. It's easier to score in today's game. Today's game's a more attacking game. There's going to be more tackle breaks. The interchange is lower. I think it was 12 or 10 back then, and it's 8 now. Obviously, the 6 again. The game's been set up to be sped up. It's been set up for players like Turbo that are quick, fast, strong. And it's such a what if, but if you put Jared Hayne 2009 in today's game, I truly believe, and obviously I have no facts to back this up because it's purely speculation, but I think he ends up having a better season. I think the impact of what Jared Hayne was able to do on the side he was on when it was pretty much all the attention was on him, where Turbo, I know he does set up pretty much everything for his team anyway, but you've got other internationals on the team with DC and Jake Trbojevic and probably Kieran Foran this year. I just believe that Jared Hayne had a better season, and that's it, I think. That's my opinion, of course.